Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first and last poetry reading series. And I'm very excited to have the readers here tonight to share their work with you. And I'm Gloria Mindock, one of the co-hosts of this series with Harris Gardner. And Linda Bamber is our first reader. Linda is a professor of English at Tufts University. Her poetry and fiction collections have been published by David R. Godine, and her poetry, fiction, essays, and reviews have appeared in periodicals such as the Harvard Review, Ploughshares, Agni, The Nation, the New York Times, and the Kenyon Review. She is currently writing an epistolary novel based on the cross-country expedition of Lewis and Clark. And I give you Linda.
Okay, thanks so much, as I've said, to both of you for the for keeping this going, and thank you for the nice introduction. So let's see, I was planning to start with a Trump poem written in 2016. I don't know what it was supposed to do, encourage us to think we did that, so maybe we can do this, or it was about distracting ourselves, so I thought maybe we're distracted. Anyway, it seemed to cast a pall, so I moved on. So this is a poem uh, called Familiarity. It's dark, but not that dark. Familiarity. Teenagers for sure, one black, one white. So when did they have that terrified, high pigtailed child in yellow and pink, screaming, "Mommy, Mommy," at Sherman and Walden as I bike through? The boy stands in the street, you'd say irresolute, but his good-looking face is calm. As if I were the child, I see the mother's violent face and then her back. "I won't take care of you," she shouts and points to him and storms away. Every bone in the child's body breaks from being dropped or rather hurled, a clattering breakage of plates in flight. "I don't know you, man," says the boy from the street, but doesn't leave at least. I'm stupefied, straddling my bike in glasses and mirror-rigged helmet, all this useless apparatus on my head for seeing and not getting hurt. Everything that happens all her life may have to pass through this cool May 6 p.m., the dandelions in the sidewalk cracks, the hardware store, the parking lot, the biker like a staring bug. Well, that's a woman's weapon, no? Smash the thing you're known to care about. Rip the shirt you made yourself. Sob in front of guests. It's over, asshole. You pick up the pieces. Cry angrily while biking. Will that show God who made spring leaves how bitterly you disapprove of his or her arrangements? So let's see, I meant to turn on timer so I knew where I was. And there we go. Okay, so the next one is called Nirvana, which, as I'm sure you know, is Sanskrit for the desired state. I can't find the can opener, then I do. The electrician shows me my name on his forearm, Linda, in pink magic marker, which is how he remembers whoever's house he's in. Once again, there's trouble getting on a website, and a friend's voice on voicemail isn't friendly enough. Sandra's in mourning for her time on retreat. "You've got to go," she says with glowing eyes. "It was amazing." "What?" I say, and miss all this. Another brief one is called Special. I used to be quite special. Now the phone doesn't ring. I've heard that in Tibet, it's considered praiseworthy to say of oneself, "I have no good qualities." Should I move to Tibet? Someone died, and we heard his house was a wreck. Doors hanging from cupboards, water-stained walls. That's how I want my house to be when I die, said a neighbor. I looked at him with new respect. Okay, so going back to a more serious note, this poem is called Endless War, which couldn't be more serious. You will remember that Cassandra was a character from Homer, who was a sister to Hector and Paris, and she had the gift of prophecy, but she also was under a curse, which was that no one would believe anything she said. And then, also, I'm sure that Arthur Balfour was the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and issued what was called the Balfour Declaration, swinging Britain. Basically, that was the moment when Britain decided it would suit its interests to establish a Jewish protectorate in the Middle East. Endless War. Cassandra swore there was no Gulf of Tonkin, but of course no one believed her. She knew the Trojan horse was loaded with death and that there were no WMDs in Iraq. And if Paris, her brother, stole Helen, Troy would fall and all its people be enslaved. Then the Pentagon Papers came out. Didn't I, said Cassandra, when people were shocked. Now this abomination, attack, retaliation, genocide, starvation. Disparaged, wild, Cassandra tears her hair. Since Balfour's birth, she's tried to tell us this is what would be from the river to the sea. Okay, a somewhat longer one. Begins in exasperation with fellow poets, some fellow poets, nobody here, of course. This is called Three Skinny Mormons. Poets, unless you're roomy, abjure the imperative, please. Regularly telling us to love what is, travel light, and so on. Also, lose the pointing gesture, will you? As if you're so blissed out on the present moment that all you have to say is blackberry, 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 or see the wild geese overhead. You know who you are, and so does every yoga teacher from here to Hawaii. Now I'm sitting in half-spinal twist, Arthemis Yandrasana to those in the know, and a Dharma teacher on the web is smoking hot. He's got hold of something deep, but he says things like, if he would have done it right, and that was literally a bombshell. And I'm sitting here in twist, silently correcting his grammar every time. Next day, three skinny Mormons are on my porch when I get home. You know the drill. Black pants, white shirts, fellow human beings burdened with an intolerable truth they're desperate to offload. These things are true, one actually says with burning eyes. I have evidence, says his frantic friend. I don't think, as I sometimes do, of the worldwide consequences this stuff has, or ask them in a rage, how do you vote? But neither, in spite of everything I know and mean to be, do I listen and take them at their best and play their best back so they can see that they are good and seen by people like me and even loved as Jesus meant us to love one another. I don't do that, God help me. Instead, like the cock that crowed when Peter denied the Lord, I laugh 3 times before they leave. Why talk about the Dharma? Asked the great Zen master, Charlotte Beck. My job is to notice how I violate it. Change of pace. Plain old love poem. It's called a lake explodes. I love you as a lake explodes and water smacks the undersides of overhanging trees. I love you as white chicken stew loves onions and mushrooms and carrots, yum. I love you as an airplane takes its shadow for a giant fish, just us between the ocean and the sky. I love you as a real black stone sits calmly in the Buddha's lap, surrounded by bushes in need of a trim. I love you as the world makes a point of equally loving us all, but especially me. You too, especially you. Let's see. Okay, so this is a poem about a child I didn't have who agrees with me that that was a good decision. It's called Right to Life. I can't thank you enough for not having had me. Not that life doesn't have its moments, e.g., last week, that kite surfer made you think, how can there be any suffering for someone who can turn on a wave like that and head back out over and over, sometimes one-armed, holding on? Even just finding the perfect dining room set, parting with the money gladly, the feeling of just rightness as you drive home. But life in general is full of surprises you could do without. Your heart could be broken, your country invaded, your life savings crash. They say no one's life can be ruined, but we all know I would have ruined yours. No great job, no context outside your tortured little family, towering resentment, crushing guilt. Yes, you would have made friends with the other members and with the other mothers in my playgroup. And yes, you would have loved me beyond imagining. Thank you very much. But please, you, then, and him, give me a break. Of course, I would have had the gene for alcohol so prevalent in what would have been my father's family, speaking of him, which you weren't great at dealing with on your own behalf now, were you, and wouldn't have been on mine. Look, it isn't lonely here, any more than an idea is lonely before it shows up, or not, in your mind. You know that feeling when it half exists? That's the beauty of the void. You've done a great job, Linda. I'm saving you a place. Now you're the mother I want. Let's see. So this next one is called Poems from My Deathbed and Just Beyond. So the convention in a Japanese death poem is that the author wrote it on his or her deathbed, but many compose their poems ahead of time, as I have here. So I want to read you the notes before I read you the poem. So I use a term, this universe that I am to myself, and that's Fernando Pessoa in the Book of Disquiet. And then the sentence, the first few days are rough, refers to the Tibetan Buddhist tradition in which you don't know you're dead for 5 to 7 days, during which all kinds of demons make this a really miserable time. And Memories, Dreams, Reflections, as you know, is the title of Jung's famous autobiography of his inner life. So here's a series of brief death poems. 1. More than ever cherishing this universe that I am to myself, my 3 trillion galaxies flickering, warning, lights going out. 2. Wish I could talk to others in my condition. Everyone around me plans still to be alive this time next week. 3. The first few days are rough, they say. You don't even know you're dead. Friends, don't get lost in grief. I'll need to talk things over more than ever. 4. Never enough, so we compare, eye each other's share. Money, fame, love, luck. Here, I throw mine back. 6. Each chariot trails a fine-toothed rake on a course of swept sand. Our sprint leaves no trace. 7. Near death for comfort, who'll take my death poems down from the shelf? Others? Myself? 8. The sheepfold is empty of sheep. Grass, fence, an open gate. Memories, dreams, reflections, all escaped. 9. Up and doing, up and being, as if existence were all there were. Look, it's been amazing, but, tapping her wrist, I gotta go. Party on, people. My best to the new arrivals. I love you all. Goodbye. So let's see. How am I doing, Gloria?
Let's see, maybe one more.
One more. Okay. Well, okay, then I've got a real quickie. It's called Falling in Love This Late in Life. Autumn, look twice. Golden sunshine on the tree's green crown or turning leaves. Thanks very much. And thank you. I look forward to hearing Peter and Miriam.
Thank you, Linda. That was a wonderful series of poems.
Thank you.
Thoughtful and thought-provoking. Our next featured reader is Peter Campion. He's the author of Radical as Poet Reality, Form and Freedom in American Poetry. He has 4 collections of poems, Other People, The Lions, El Dorado, and One Summer Evening at the Falls, and several monographs and catalog essays on modern and contemporary visual art. He's a recipient of the John Simon Guggenheim Fellowship, the Larry Levis Reading Prize, the Pushcart Prize, and the Joseph Brodsky Rome Prize. He teaches in the writing program at the University of Minnesota and edits the magazine REVEL. And I give you Peter Campion.
Thanks so much, Harris. Can everybody hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. And thanks to Glow and Miriam and Linda. It's a real pleasure to read in the company of poets I admire so much. I'm going to begin with a title poem of a book that I've been working on that hasn't been published yet. And the poem is called Unidentified Animal. Unidentified Animal. Just off the trail, just off the road, and running loud through brush from the left, before becoming sheepdog or catamount, whitetail or wolf. The animal was vector, force, bare violence or flight from violence with, was it dragged branches or pebbles, muck, teeth, and the sound swept like a blade, the high, thin hall of trail, sliced by diagonal clatter and crow shriek, the 9 p.m. late summer violet spun in a curtain crash of dark and light. So when the animal, fisher, bobcat, coyote, scampered across just up ahead, turning for seconds its human, not human, form of the 4 limbs, abdomen, neck, and skull, before it ran again, its eyes, night vision green through brush and shadow, flared out in a tremoring balance, tremoring rhyme of difference, trading back and forth with same. In our no language, no one was speaking. This next poem is called Near Cairo. Near Cairo. I remember the feeling everyone had traveled light years to be there. All these people holding the depths of who they were behind their faces as the boulevard entered a tunnel of sword palms and led to the river, where I watched a man carrying a cloth sack kneel to the water's edge, undo the drawstring, and let loose a slender, dark snake to swim out in the river. Saffron in the souk, I remember, and the families on billboards for clothes or groceries, more plausible than usual, because unknown to me, because not white, and the women in veils. I imagine them entirely ensconced in what was given, as I would be someday in my real life. But the thing so clear it hardly feels a memory is the snake come swimming back, slow, ball-bearing glances separate from the automatic S-shaped arrowing through surface film, eyes in their sockets separate from the scales surrounding. This poem is named after a great acting teacher, Marlon Brando's, among other people's, teacher. It's a poem about art, and it takes place in an apartment building early in the morning. Stella Adler. Thanks to the house finch, whose warble across the air shaft ends with an upward slur and begins again. Thanks to the sawtooth of sunlight down brick, and thanks to sky I cannot see but trust to wheel this morning past rooftops, all appears possible. Words float alone, then sink into their sentences as I read Stella Adler exhorting actors. You can say that 2 plus 2 equals 4 and make it seem quite unremarkable. You can also say 2 plus 2 equals 4 in a way that reveals it is an idea that took millions of years to evolve. Words, glittering keyring, coffee aroma, and the neighbor's purple lobelia trailing window boxes pierce me this morning like forgotten knowns, though I arrive so late with the startled torpor of a dog remembering he buried, oh yeah, around here somewhere, bones. Linda very kindly requested this poem. Commuters. Because the house we lived in after our mother married had just some maple trees to screen us from the tracks, they hovered close and clear, those people on the train held by some holding pattern in their shuddering glow. And now again, my home no longer what I thought my home was. They've returned. briefcase, a Kangol cap, pale woman in a shawl medallioned like tapestries, floating suspended in their phosphorescent tube through the evening blue, cut off from any story of who they are and where they're going, as galactic rivers of headlights squiggle past those strangers held on the train and dreaming all those different elsewheres, or else not dreaming, but just calmly waiting there, still rivet me, bright bodies startling the dark. Um, I'll read three more poems. This poem, well, if I can find it. This poem is called Quarry, and it takes place, quarry being one of those mining places that have been mined um, many years ago. There are a lot of them in New England, and there's a lot here in Minnesota too. And people go swimming in them, and they're huge rock formations with very very deep water and little tiny beach in one place. Quarry. Only a teardrop on the map until you're there. And then the charcoal smoke, laughter, treetops translucent with late sun and the cool dark beneath. Kids splashing in the emerald shallows, and the couple lifting the buoy rope to launch out to deeper water. Make the quarry an entrance to some interior wished for so long and not quite even now disclosed. Past malls and mini golf, past gullies of loose strife, past fenced off lots, no longer fields and not yet yards. The road unfurled its screens for daydream, that lingering hunch that the better life awaits somewhere. And here could be the threshold, to stand waist deep on a sand shelf, edging a drop off that workmen gouged from earth 100 years ago, to let the automatic jabber subside, to breathe, to catch the wind as waves of bare sensation feels like being about to burst into a secret amplitude behind the world, glistening, rich, alive, except there's only this trembling here, toes in sand as sunlight spikes the tamaracks and the smoke drifts, and high school kids chant Emilio to make Emilio dive. And this is a slightly longer poem called Amtrak. White guy, late middle age, designer slacks and t-shirt, pacing the platform as the city woke, its hydrangeas and sirens, its famous concert halls. And then 5 cops in Kevlar out of nowhere tackled him. And there were orders on a megaphone and guns. My face grew sweaty, tingling from the flush of blood, while boys in letter jackets huddled around their friend to watch the part he filmed. A girl yanked down her hood to hide her tears, though now a cop was giving thumbs up, all clear, now whistles and shouts as railroad guys waved everyone on board. Come on, the doors were closing. Like a demolished wedding cake, cream stucco streaked with rust scrolled past, and shacks and cherry dogwood branches draping a wire fence, and all around were fields. And at that moment, joy for summer and the feeling life lay open, everywhere a destination, everyone newcomer. Though just as the bust had been so fast and startling, before so small and far away, my upsurge of euphoria plunged into emptiness. My glee about the world was all just me, like cell phone garble echoing back, until the train lurched and screeched to a full stop. Luggage toppled from luggage racks, and a blank stare, an uh-oh, or a swallowed giggle ricocheted between the girl in cowgirl boots, huge tracksuit man, Nigerian mom in loud pink aso-oke gown. This happened years ago, and still, sometimes in dreams or traffic or video conference blah blah, comes the almost but not quite relief, the tremulous alertness lingering between passengers as the train gained speed again, as if everything, all love and grief and rote routine and dumb unknowing, came down to a quaver of windows throbbing past, but still in place. New towns, new people getting on, and others going. And for moments, the actual ride returns. Tight shimmies down the narrow corridors of sleeper cars. Upholstery smell of ancient cigarettes. A woman says to someone about who knows what, "It's not the movies when that happens, it's your body." She flicks a sugar packet with her fingernail. At the same time, it's the movies. If your muscle memory leaves you way behind, you're watching you. The sky grows dark. Some doze beneath their coats like husks. With impressive speed, the pages of a mystery fan to the end. Out there, beneath the mountains, a hanging web of terraced silver threads like a castle. This huge industrial plant or oil refinery fires the distance. Clusters of little swiveling beams are headlamps. People at work so late into the night. And since it's wintertime, I'll finish with a snowy poem, a short snowy poem. January afternoon. Over the backyard, where the complex going up fronts on the frozen river, shadows of willow boughs pummeled in wind. So vivid for shadows, calligraphic slashes imprinting on the snow in ragged laterals, fling forward, then collect back into dangled clumps like octopus tentacles hovering down slung before the forward lunge again, more greyhound now, more charger or the hungry lion. And I know My own projector spools these shapes. My need to cast some spell against despair. Blot out the leaden, oh no, it's going all in one direction. And the willows swing back on themselves the same and spring again. Squid, jellyfish, jaguar, scrawling on the snow. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. There's three featured poets tonight who are strong in their own right. And if they weren't, each one would be a hard act to follow. But everybody is really incredible tonight. The poetry is wonderful. And that leads me to the third featured poet. Miriam Levine is the author of Forgot About Sleep, her sixth poetry collection, winner of the 2023 Laura Voss Narrative Poetry Award. Another collection, The Dark Opens, won the Autumn House Poetry Prize. Other books include Devotion, a memoir, In Patterson, a novel. Her work has been widely published. Levine is winner of a Pushcart Prize, is a fellow of the NEA, and a grantee of the Massachusetts Artists Foundation. She lives in Florida and New Hampshire. And again, for more information about her work, please go to miriamlevine.com. And without further ado, please, I give you Miriam Levine.
Can you hear me now? Great. Thanks to Harris and to Gloria. This is a long-standing poetry series, and it takes a lot of work to keep these things going. So cheers for you. Cheers for the poets. Cheers for people listening. I'm so glad you came. I think there is something true about synchronicity. Peter ended with a snow poem, and I had planned to begin with a snow poem. So here's Do You Dare? It snows on the leaf, on the branch, on the rose, on marigolds, shriveled as they are. It snows on the threshold, on the window, snow clumped like cotton. Snow drifts on the street, on the road, deep on the curb strips. Greenish whirlpools of snow under the street lights, white on the dome of the Greek church across the way. It snows on the gravestones, on the evil and the good. In the garden, on the statue, the Buddha's lips sealed in ice, and cracks between flagstones obliterated, the ground all one thing. Do you dare call it unity, cold grace, white communion, blessed silence? The wind carves the drift so at the foundation of the house there's snowless space and a white crest like the crest of a wave. New England. Here's another winter poem, and it's called That Winter. That winter, when the night sky was violet, I was sure I would remember it. And the sight of unbroken snow in the morning, I would remember that too. And the cat waiting on the step to be let in. And on clear nights, the evening star just over the hemlocks. And the tree in the young couple's window lit long after Christmas. I was sure I would remember those starry white lights and the couple's windows and tree going dark at their bedtime, while I read by the light of a single lamp. Another winter poem. Winter, it is here. This is called Unshed Tears and the Snow. Linda liked this one. It refers in the first line to the great Maria Callas and the particular aria. So here goes, unshed tears in the snow. When I hear great Callas sing, Nel oro del dolor, in my hour of sorrow, heat breaks the dam in my chest, and tears seem to well but don't come, no matter how much they tease at the back of my throat. Then later at the window, the curtain pushed aside, I see the street turned white and the trees and roofs and paths. As I kept longing for tears, snow fell from a windless sky and night came on with no sound. Now for something a little different. Linda asked me to read this one. It's called Lighten Up. So from snow, here we go to the vernacular. And in this poem, I'm talking to myself. I always like to say that art and poetry are absolutely wonderful because you can talk to yourself, you can have a dog talk, you can have a flower talk, you can do what used to be called imagine. So here I'm talking to myself. Lighten up. Listen, Mim, be a featherweight. Sure, you once admired Susan Sontag, who called herself a zealot of seriousness. It nourished her, she insisted, and those heavy texts in French and Czech, seldom the work of light-hearted writers. She didn't smile or suffer fools, hardly ever slept, kept going on speed, never took a nap. Not me, not now. Go ahead, Mim, be frivolous. Spend an hour choosing a dress. Fish out that necklace you haven't worn for years, the one from your friend Jane with the figure of Venus born from the frothy sea. She loves mirrors. There you go. Lipstick, cherry red, toenails lacquered pink. When that fool of a critic thinks he's brilliant, offer a bemused smile he takes for approval. Sip from a glass of cold champagne and take yourself home take yourself home to your zero gravity La Fuma chair and read Jean Rhys. It's funny how well you can remember when you lie in the dark with your arm over your forehead, two eyes open inside your head. The road goes along by the sea. The coconut palms lean crookedly down to the water. Francine says that if you wash your face in coconut water every day, you are young and unwrinkled, no matter how long you live. Fat chance, right? Linda's reading of Right to Life about the child who never was and the child who was made to disappear gave me the courage to write this poem. I wrote it in the spirit of Catullus, another great poet who got into a lot of trouble and said, I think, everything he wanted to say. Here goes. They call it menopause. They call it menopause, they. A shadow mustache came on when I reached 60. In some light, it seemed bluish. There were fewer tears. As for weeping, almost never. I lost muscle mass. My brain lit up with fantasies in which I was dominant, atop, not on men, but women. My moves were cruel. It scared me to know this being I called a man, this bastard, this son of a bitch. Now that I'm older by decades, I'm intact again, a kind of virgin queen who likes to see the young pass by in their beautiful bodies. As you know, there's a lot going on in the world. The list goes on and on and on. And it's difficult for me to write about those kinds of things head on. I have to sort of get at it obliquely. The great actor Mifune, do you know his work? The great Japanese actor, he would get at things sideways too when he was acting. His gesture was always to go like this. If he had a beard, it was always like this. And I think of myself sometimes sort of sliding into certain issues sideways. This is called degree by degree. And you will listen to that word about melting in the last lines. And I think it will come home to you. Degree by degree. Oh, also this poem owes a debt to Thomas Transformer and also to Rilke, the great Rilke, to some extent, degree by degree. The woman who stands by that window faces west, so the pink light of dawn does not reach her, let alone the gray room. Her stance does not shift. Weather does. That sudden mist, cold smoke of the clouds, souls slow dissolve. The woman who sees rain come on fast and fill the cells of the window screens watches it dwindle, puts on her raincoat, and goes into the drizzle past wild, yellow-headed tansies that thrive on neglect to come back for 1,000 Junes, I hope. The woman who spends half a day taking things out and putting them back reads Melville, an intense copper calm like a universal yellow lotus was more and more unfolding its noiseless, measureless leaves upon the sea. As she falls asleep in the light of her pink lamp, a measurable rise of heat, degree by degree, like a chronic fever, more and more upon the permafrost, is melting away the years. The last poem I'll read, A Shift, very, very recent. I live near a street called Center Street. It's spelled Centre, which I love for some reason. It has that sort of antique quality. On Center Street. Now we were in winter and now a bit early spring, an early cold spring on Center Street. Narcissus jumps the gate of winter, the trumpet's ruffled orange edge, the deeper orange eye of the center, the opaque silk. Your shadow cuts across the sunlit way. The bright threads heal once you've passed. You ditch the past and drift. Memories turn to vapor like last night's dream. Already the heaps of snow melt from the bottom. Water trickles and swells the stream you can't see till it flows into the sewer. Like every day, the 4 o'clock bell from St. John's, church bell of memory. Not for me, you swear, not for me. Yet that hot, icy day comes back, snowbanks soft, slow melt, sun-shot cold air, the gleam of wheels of your son's carriage, his eyes closed against the glare till you adjusted the shade and he looked straight into the day. Thank you.